You've probably used ChatGPT. I mean, maybe even today. But have you ever really stopped and wondered, is it actually intelligent? Or is it all just an incredibly convincing trick, a magnificent illusion? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the biggest secrets in tech. Let's dive in. So here's the billion-dollar question, right? What is actually happening inside that thing's head? How does it take our simple questions and spit out answers that sound so human? That's the black box we are prying open in this explainer. And the answer? It's not some kind of sci-fi magic. It's actually a stroke of pure genius called the transformer architecture. This right here, this is the secret sauce. This is the technology that gives ChatGPT its superpower, the ability to take our messy, beautiful language and turn it into cold, hard math. Okay, and here is the first major reveal. You need to forget everything you might think about consciousness or understanding, because at its heart, ChatGPT doesn't understand a single thing. It is, simply, the world's most sophisticated prediction engine. Its entire job is to do one thing: calculate the most probable next word in a sentence. That's it. The process is called tokenization, and it works like this. You type a sentence. The machine then breaks your words into little pieces called tokens and converts each one into a long, complex string of numbers. Then it performs an absolutely insane amount of calculation to predict what the next string of numbers ought to be. And then it translates that number back into a word you can read. It's really just a high-stakes game of statistical connect the dots. And this really gets to the core of it all. The whole system runs on numbers, not on comprehension, not on feelings. So if you ask it, what's the capital of Azerbaijan, it's not checking a database of facts. Nope, it's just calculating that the word Baku has a statistical probability that's millions of times higher than the word Florida to follow that exact sequence of words. So how does it get so good at this guessing game? Well, the scale is it's hard to even wrap your head around. We were talking about a gigantic neural network built with billions, and I mean billions, of parameters. You can think of these like tiny little adjustment knobs that get tweaked and tuned over and over again during training to get those relationships between words just right. So the first phase of its training was simple: just read. And by read, I mean it basically swallowed the entire public internet whole. We're talking books, articles, blogs, forums, you name it. It absorbed all of it just to learn the patterns, the structure, and the statistical vibe of human language. But just reading a lot of stuff isn't enough. The real secret, the true genius behind its coherence, is something called the attention mechanism. Think of it like this. When you read a long sentence, your brain automatically focuses on the most important words. Well, that's what this does. It learns to give an importance score to every word, figuring out how relevant it is to every other word. So in a sentence about a company's CEO, the words CEO and the person's name get a really high score, and the model knows to focus on them. It's a breakthrough that allows its answers to be so incredibly focused. Okay, so that leads to the next big question. Lots of older AI models read huge chunks of the internet, but honestly, their answers were clunky and often made no sense. So what makes ChatGPT so much better? What was the thing that took it from just a text predictor to something that feels like a genuine conversation partner? And here it is. The big one, the absolute game changer, was a process called RLHF, which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Human Feedback. This was the second and absolutely crucial phase of its training. This is where it stopped just learning language patterns and started learning what humans actually prefer to hear. Here's how that worked. The model would generate, say, 4 or 5 different answers to a question. Then actual human trainers would come in and rank them from best to worst, based on things like helpfulness, tone, accuracy, and safety. The model's new goal was simple: learn from that feedback and try to get a higher score from the humans next time. And this process, this constant loop of human feedback and refinement, is what made all the difference. It's what polished the raw, predictive machine into the helpful, articulate, and, dare I say, civilized assistant we talked to today. It's how it learned not just to be statistically correct, but to be genuinely useful. But this brings us to a really critical flaw. Why does it sometimes just make things up? This is what everyone calls the hallucination problem. See, a human expert, like a professor, checks their facts before they speak. ChatGPT doesn't. Its one and only mission is to construct the most statistically probable, most convincing-sounding sentence. If a plausible-sounding lie gets a better mathematical score than an awkward truth, it will tell the lie every single time. So, and this is the main takeaway here, these hallucinations are the ultimate proof that it is just a prediction engine, not a thinking one. It is designed to prioritize sounding correct over being correct. And honestly, that is the single biggest danger that every user needs to be aware of. All right, limitation number 2 is all about time. ChatGPT's knowledge is essentially frozen. For the most part, its core training data just stops around early 2023. It isn't browsing the live internet when it's talking to you. It's working from memory. And that has some very real-world consequences. It means asking it about today's news headlines or the latest stock prices or who won the big game last night is completely useless. It simply does not have access to any information created after its training was finished. That's why you're seeing newer versions getting plugged into search engines to get around this very fundamental limit. Okay, so now that we understand its incredible powers and its very real limitations, where does this all go from here? Well, the next chapter in this crazy story is already being written as we speak. We're on the verge of 2 major evolutions. First, developers are trying to move it towards genuine reasoning, teaching it to understand cause and effect, not just spotting correlations in data. And second is something called multimodal development. This means future models won't just be about text. They're going to be able to see, hear, and process images, audio, and video. Basically, they're not just going to read about the world, they're going to start perceiving it.
And that is both exciting and, let's be honest, a little bit terrifying. ChatGPT is an amazing tool, an incredible assistant, but at the end of the day, it is still a machine. So as we stand here, right on the edge of this new era, the final question isn't really about the technology. It's about us. We have this powerful new tool in our hands, but do we have the wisdom to use it well?